welcome to this episode of Oral History of Automation in Evidence Synthesis and Systematic Reviews. This is one of the two series in which we started to document the technological developments and advancement in our field in conversation with tech leaders. We are documenting the past, present, and the futures for all generations of evidence synthesizers or systematic reviewers. Our guest today is Eitan Agai, and many of you would associate his name with the PICO Portal. Eitan, thank you and welcome to this episode. Please tell us all about you from the very inception, how you grew up, how you ended up with engineering, and right now with the systematic reviews, and get into the details as much as you like.
Thank you so much, Farhad, and as always, I love our conversation, and I follow you diligently on LinkedIn. So thank you for all the great posts that you're posting and educating all of us. So my background is actually in engineering, structural engineering, as a matter of fact. And I was fortunate enough to work on some exciting projects early on in my career, where I worked on the restoration of Statue of Liberty when the Statue of Liberty was celebrating its own centennial. And then I worked on adding the West Wing to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Those were all very exciting projects for a young guy. And at the same time, technology became more and more of a common thing. And I felt really attracted to technology. I felt that this is something that really suits my background much better. I migrated into technology, started my first company, which was in the area of document management system. So from the get-go, I was very familiar with the challenges of moving PDF files from one location to another, which is not a small challenge, and processing them. And over time, I became more involved with the financial industry here in New York City and helping project mortgage companies to process their mortgage. So if you're familiar with the mortgage, at least here in the United States, you know that it's involved hundreds and hundreds of pages of background information, from bank statement to income related things to the asset itself and the value of the asset. So all of this really takes some effort. And they have a special group like underwriters that their primary job is to go very diligently throughout those documents and make sure that they are in compliance. So that's not a small challenge. And of course, automation and AI, at that time, machine learning, was quite useful. That kind of led me into PICO Portal, which started during the pandemic time.
That's great and confusingly exciting, because I couldn't imagine someone, working on restoration of Statue of Liberty, being a structural engineer, and suddenly coming, it looked like you're following the path that you desire, and your gut tells you that this is the right thing to do. I'm going for it.
Yeah, I feel quite fortunate. I think that it's one of those philosophies that we're all familiar with, that we have one life to live. And one of the things that I realized, that being educated is really not so much about the education, but it's about giving us the flexibility to adjust and to do what we would like to do. So if you're a carpenter, it's very hard for you to switch jobs. But if you're a college graduate, the world is more open to you, and you can choose different type of professions, assuming that you would like to put some effort into it and to adjust. This is my third chapter in my career, moving into the biomedical field. I really never was involved in it in a professional way. And I find it fascinating, and it kept me going for the last 4 years with PICO Portal.
Yes, those are some wise words, and maybe we need more structural engineers in our field to save more lives. And that is actually very connected to my next one because I wanted to know how did you land on PICO Portal, the decision to start PICO Portal? When did it start, and why did you call it PICO Portal? Some people find it confusing and they think that it is limited to PICO.
Yeah, you're right. So, if we remember the pandemic period, right? It's a once in a lifetime event. Caused many of us to be very anxious. And I was remembering sitting in my apartment in New York and following the WHO and the Library of Literature. I saw the avalanche of articles that are coming up. And I said to myself, you know what? What can I do to help scientists go through all of those literatures? Giving my background in the mortgage industry and dealing with large sets of documents, I felt that I can take the knowledge that I have and put together a platform that will help scientists go through literature review faster and even increase their quality at the same time. And that was the idea of PICO Portal. Now, as a startup, and because I have some experience, you have to be very focused with what you would like to do. I think that to conquer the world or boil the ocean it's not a wise approach. So I said, yes, let's limit ourselves to PICO, which stands for Population Intervention, Comparison, and Outcome. Let's take it from there. And if it's successful, which it's proven to be successful, because after 4 years, it morphed into other health-related fields such as environmental, behavioral, social. I even find out that there are some projects that are conducted on the life of astronauts and their journey to Mars, or how to maintain sustainable food systems for long duration missions, which really was not part of the original vision, but it morphed into this new vision of how this tool can be useful. And that's quite rewarding, I would say.
Yes, however, it is still there is a gap. So, and that gap is that PICO Portal is considered new semi-automation tool in the block. I mean, it started, was it 2020, 2021? And it found its way to the top 5 considerable technology. It made it the watch list of many people. And there are technologies, automation technologies in the market for 15, 20 years. And PICO Portal started late, but just rose very fast. Why is that?
I think besides its strong technology foundation that offers scalability, security, speed, interoperability, those are all important elements. If you ask me for the secret sauce, right? I mean, like, what is the secret sauce here that made PICO Portal what it is? I think it's user feedback. I spend hours and hours and hours listening to users. And till this day, I do that. I always ask for feedback. I'm not shy to ask for users' feedback. What did you think about the presentation? What did you think about the technology? How do you find the technology? Is there something that it's missing? And in a way, PICO Portal is some sort of a grassroots platform that was built by the users. So when users start to use the technology, they feel right at home. They see the features that they were dreaming about, that they wanted to see, and that's what makes them feel quite comfortable with it. And I think that can be one of the reasons for success.
Fair enough. I think so. That is the importance of user experience and listening to the users. And I would agree that I have worked with some of the programs for 7 years, and they kept asking for the meetings, user testing meetings, and we provided feedback for about 7 years, and finally they ignored it and went the other way. So I can see that, I mean, I'm not using those technologies anymore just because of that. So it is very important to care about the users' want and wish list. It is very important. And I just wanted to mention that the moment that actually made me think about this interview and the fact that I need to keep mentioning PICO Portal in my presentations and in my blog posts was that when you showed this semi-automated risk of bias assessment, so you had these tools implemented in PICO Portal, and I could have chosen the RAP2 or Robin's Eye, and then the items were there. I click on the item, the answer was already selected, the level of risk, and then if I click on it, it opens the PDF and highlights the section. So it saves a lot of time. And I'm sure that you've got a lot of other automation features. And I know that large language models is now the cool kid in the block. People keep asking about it. Uh, are there any other automation features using machine learning, automation, artificial intelligence, including large language models in PICO Portal that people are not aware of and they need to know about?
Oh, fair question. I think user expect automation. I think that one of the things that still boggle my mind and many others is that we can do so much with our mobile phone. We can take videos, we can listen to music, we can attend a conference call, we can make calls, we can edit pictures. It offers us so much. And then when we're using our professional tool, we feel that we're back into the 20th century. And that gap has to be narrowed. I think that people do expect that their professional tool will perform at least as well as the tools that they're using privately, such as Gmail, such as other tools that, YouTube and so forth. So the commitment here, I think for me and for the rest of the industry that it's involved in developing tools, is to automate whenever it's possible, but do it responsibly. I mean, automation does not, we were exposed to automation all the time. I mean, deduplication is not something that it's new, right? And obviously the cost benefit of doing automated deduplication is very easy to prove. There's no questions about it. But when you implement technology, you have to implement it in a way that it's a responsible way. And specifically when we're dealing with large language models, I think that large language models are different. They're not the same as the technology that we knew before. Obvious issues are hallucination, obviously, but there are other issues as well. And I think that the way to use it is to use it responsibly. So what I mean by responsibly, like in our case, is more like using it as a research assistant rather than giving you the right answer to help you get to that answer. To respond to your previous question about other things that PICO Portal is doing, yes, so we implement technology wherever it's possible, from generating synonyms for your keywords, into priority screening, into highlighting passages that are related to population intervention and outcome, and of course today with risk of bias and data extraction, giving you a guide or guiding you toward where you should find the answer and what is the possible and the correct answer.
It's very complete. And just to expand on that, you are aware that the most time-consuming part of the systematic reviews are usually the data extraction. And that is the part that many people are dreaming to see automated. I know that PICO Portal has done some work, and I wanted to ask if you've used any large language models or retrieval augmented generation, RAG, to make the data extraction automated, and also have you tested that it does any sort of hallucination? I know that you showed me once a figure, and your system was able to extract data from the figure. And that was quite exciting because I haven't seen anything like that. The other thing that people are using, other systematic reviews, usually is the web plot digitizer, and that is something that you need to do manually.
Yeah, so I think we did quite a bit, and I think that there is still an awful lot to do. This is just the beginning of the road here. This is definitely not a complete solution. It's dipping our toes in the cold water and figuring out how useful it is, and if people finding that they spend more time using the technology or less time. So we're kind of balancing what, at least my take of what does it mean to be balanced and to be responsible when you introduce such a powerful technology. And at this point, yes, we do have the ability to extract text and suggest. So risk of bias and data extraction are two different problems. The risk of bias, the primary issue with the risk of bias is obviously that it's a personal assessment. Even with data extraction, there is some personal assessment. I mean, you make your own judgment what is the answer should be. However, with the risk of bias, it's even more so because you have to say whether it's a low risk, medium risk, moderate risk, or high risk. But what it's less disputed is the passages that it drive this assessment from. So our objective is to highlight those passages and to show the passages on the PDF itself to the assessor, so that the assessor can read the passage and come to their own conclusion, whether that is a low, medium, or moderate, or high risk. And that, to me, is a much more powerful at this stage of the game than to already provide an answer without a justification where that answer is coming from. So you have to be aware of the process itself. We also have to be mindful to the fact that we are dealing with scientists. And if I would be a scientist, I would be very cautious in terms of adapting new technology. Prove it to me, right? I mean, show it to me that it actually, show me a reference that it actually quote that this is safe to use. And I totally agree with that. And therefore, the process, because we're at the beginning, we don't have enough data to come and to say that this is bulletproof technology. We have to provide the user with enough data to triangulate where the answer is coming from, why the AI think that this is the right answer, and leave the researcher at the driver's seat to make the final decision of whether they agree with it or not.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, we need to be very careful. And I mean, still we are using the ATM machines. We go to the cash machine, we ask, and we get the cash out. And then even though we have done it millions of times, we still count the amount in case. And I mean, in my case, it has never been wrong, but still I'm counting the money, even though I know that it is right. So I think some people just stay suspicious of the technology and double check all the time. But I hope that one day I will just go there, get the money, put it into wallet,
Yes,
and never check it one day.
of course.
So when it comes to the PDFs are what many of the scientists would call is the prison for the knowledge and data. So many people say that this is the worst thing that happened to the open science. And that the quality of PDF is very important when we are dealing with the data extraction. One of the questions that one of my users asked actually is, what if I get the documents from interlibrary loan, because they usually scan and send the document. If I upload the scanned document, will there be automatic OCR in PICO Portal, or do they need to do the OCR, optical character recognition, before uploading the document into PICO Portal?
Yeah. No, fair enough. But let me talk about PDF. I mean, I think that's a very, very important conversation. So for the more of the younger generation, knowing about the PDF, since I started almost like from inception when Adobe was established itself. So PDF was created actually to replace fax machine, which many people don't know in our generation what a fax machine is. But at that time, we used to move documents specifically between the US and Japan through some machines that used to scan them on one side and send it to the other side. And that was an amazing technology to be able to send a file within minutes. But the phone calls were very expensive. So PDF came up as a solution to go ahead and to replace that, to take any type of document and put it in some sort of a readable format that will be agnostic of whether it was created with a word processor or it was created as an image. It will be agnostic and everyone will be able to read it. That's the origin of PDF. Somehow it morphed into this document repository. And it's a terrible, terrible format behind the scene. I, as a matter of fact, was involved with the putting together a standard for PDF back in 2000. So PDF was owned totally by Adobe, and the world became very concerned. There were at that time in 2005, there were over 1 billion PDF files, and the world said, hey, what if you will go out of business? What will happen to our documents? So we were working together with Adobe. I mean, many colleagues, I had a very small role, but to basically encourage them to open, to make it an open source. And from that to develop a standard, so everyone was creating a PDF file in their own way. So it's unfortunate sometimes, the universe take a certain direction. We don't realize what it means. And now today we have to live with it. Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hours were wasted because of this technology. Now, my advantage is that I am very familiar with the PDF file. I understand its limitation and capabilities, and I'm basically using that knowledge to benefit researchers. So to answer the question about images, yes, we understand images. Although we don't add an OCR layer, but we definitely have the ability to read scanned documents and answer questions from scanned documents, the same way that we can read information from a scanned charts.
I think that was an important point. And I didn't know you were involved with the Adobe activities. I would have had a few tough questions about why. But there has been actually new developments in the field. And one of the worries that people have during the systematic review is that when we finish the record screening or title abstract screening, they want the full text. And there are a few programs that already implemented the automatic finding of open access full text. However, majority of the full text that we need are not open access. They are behind paywall, which is not an issue for someone at the university because we've got subscription. But still, majority of the publishers block the way to automatically get the PDFs. They think that you are a robot. They don't allow you. Have you heard of paper QA2? It's a future house new technology, and unlike the other large language model technologies that are using title and abstract only, they are now going for getting the PDFs through the university subscription and getting them in. And do you think that PICO Portal would implement such technology or a way to access the full text? So I enter my username and university username and password and get connected to these publishers and PICO Portal, just get any full text that I have access to automatically to the full text screening stage.
Yeah, so let me address a couple of questions because you've mentioned several technologies. So first of all, from the beginning, I recognize that it's important to identify open access PDF file. And we're actually using more than one algorithm to identify them. So we are using several algorithms, and we use AI technology to curate the different the different URLs that we're receiving to find out which one is the latest version that was not retracted. And if it was retracted, we will post it as a retracted article. So it's not just about finding the PDF file, it's also finding out what's the status of that study and finding out what's the status of that particular study. And I think that's by itself, it's important. Now, I think that it seems to me, and again, it's not my area of expertise, but that something is not right. It's almost like during the time that Napster, you remember Napster with the free music, and it was a lot of it is about copyright and then they took Napster, even though my kids loved Napster and then they all used it. We're kind of like that's rendezvous right now with the publishers is at that level. Yeah, don't use AI on my articles. Yes, use AI on my articles. You have to prove that you're not a robot. When you're just downloading an article, I mean, it's like, what is the issue? I mean, it's like someone has to explain to me what is the exposure over here to download all of it and to build your own library. I'm not so sure exactly, but whatever it is, I'm just saying is we have to find better ways. I mean, even if it's through some certifications that you will issue to software companies, right? I mean, there are technologies that we can use. I'm not an expert in it, but I'm sure that we can find a way to really reduce all of those tasks, which I call the silent tasks. The silent tasks are tasks that nobody is accounted for. Everyone is measuring how long did it take you to do the screening, but nobody is looking at how long does it take you to find the PDF file, right? So this is a silent task, Google is telling you how long it will take you to get to your supermarket, but it doesn't count for the time that it takes you to park your car and to go from your car to the supermarket. And if you're in New York, parking the car usually takes more time than actually driving to the destination.
I see.
So,
yeah. So you think that actually PICO Portal will be able to have that feature to automatically get the full text from the publishers?
We do. I mean, when we can, we upload the PDF file automatically. And we are talking to few publishers and right now, I mean, more that are hosting other publishing, like publishing house, and that we are working with them on how to get the PDF files automatically without going through a firewall. But it's a long conversation, and it's not just our problem.
I see. It is interesting conversation. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday that I wrote something. I created something. I call it user murder index.
Yes,
And
I saw that.
that is to do with, it is a serious thing and many people don't consider it. But I've been in emergency department and I witnessed that if we were not able to access to that article, a patient would have died and the publishers didn't care about it, even though we paid for the article. So I just put it out there to raise the awareness really, rather than being offensive to someone. But it is important for us, and for systematic reviews it is important because they are high level of evidence. As soon as they are released, they become the base for the clinical practice guidelines, and the doctors actually act based on the recommendation from them.
That's
So
true.
publishers blocking us getting the PDF, not cool. But that is one issue. The one thing that many automation programs have not considered yet, apart from one of them that I will refer to it, is the first step after the protocol development. We have to run the searches. And none of the automation programs have the facility, so we ask the Librarian and Information Specialist to develop the search strategy, run it in multiple databases, which is cool. That's why many people have jobs because of this. But what if there was a way that we could actually do one-stop shop. Just run the search. Just when we are in PICO Portal or we are in any other program, we just run the search in that program and get the records directly from the databases. What if we have a single database, such as OpenAlex, that we could actually run and get the records? I know that AP Review is doing that for the evidence map and evidence gap projects for the scoping purposes, not for systematic review. But if it is possible to have a single source, do you think PICO Portal one day would have this facility to run the searches within PICO Portal rather than going to CNAL and Medline and Embase and all that?
Oh, fantastic. It's a great question. So let me start by saying that when I started PICO Portal, really the vision was to create an end-to-end platform, right? So you're not just talking about, oh, let's do the review. Really, the whole idea to start from putting together the protocol all the way into the evidence synthesis, right? So that's available in the financial market. You have SAP as a platform, you have PeopleSoft as a platform, you have Salesforce as a platform. Those are not like single tools. You know, the idea here, and I always like to call PICO Portal as a platform, that you can continue and add to the workflow another element and another element, so that the user will have a single journey on one platform and does not have to deal with interoperability and moving articles. I remember seeing at the beginning when I was doing my research, and I don't recall if it was Bonn University or one of them, but it was like, okay, you want to do your deduplication, go to this website. You want to do your data extraction, go to this site. I mean, so it's like, it's not enough that I have to figure out like how to meet the deadline, stay within budget, manage my people. You know, you just add another wrinkle to my user experience. So PICO Portal really, by design, was designed in such a way that it will give a user a single platform and will provide the user with the ability to run the entire journey, the entire systematic review or evidence synthesis journey on a single platform. Now, putting that aside, we are using OpenAlex. We're using it right now for a process that's called snowballing. Right? So in Snowball, if you're doing a systematic review, which is, let's say, an 18 months project, typically, right? Not using PICO Portal, but an 18 months process. By the time that you start and by the time you publish, you know, half of your paper are obsolete. So there is a requirement to run another search and to find out what's new in the market. One of those is to run a forward snowball, for example. So what it will do, it will go through all the eligible articles that you have, will find out all the references in those articles, and will find out which newer articles references your article itself, right? So this way, if your article is from 2023 and it was referenced by an article from 2024, maybe it's an article that I should consider for my study, right? So we use OpenAlex for that. It's a very powerful tool. The extension and to bring it into running a search so that it will perform, let's say, like Ovid, it's a one-stop shop where you can just run one query and get it from the source from everything. It's a very incremental step for us. Being me, I would like to automate it to a way that even a novice user can use it and use an AI to generate the, you know, the query itself. So they're not being bogged down by learning another language and so forth. But here's the concern that I have talking about responsible AI and so forth. The concern is, I know that someone without experience is is not the best person to write that particular query. I know that you need to have an information specialist in order for you to be responsible to the search, because it's the first step and it's the most crucial step, right? You missed an article, you will never know that you missed an article. So, or if you have too many articles, then you will spend, months and months and months doing unnecessary work. So this balance has to be done in such a way. So really, my concern is not technical. My concern is how to implement it in such a way that one is I make it easier for the user so they don't have to become yet another expert in OpenAlex the same way that they gain their expertise in PubMed. And two is how do I ensure that we're not providing the user with a tool that will create an illusion for them that they know what they are doing, that they really need to be able to figure out how to check their work and to work with someone in the field that can assist them. So right now, I have a prototype where we put clearly a warning, consult with an information specialist, before your final execution of the query. But I'm just suggesting the details or the nuances are, like, in this case, more important than the technology.
Very valid points and very important ones as well. It just made me think about a few other questions, but I'm not going to ask them because it may exceed the time of the interview. But that is a dream. I mean, having ecosystem that we could develop the protocol, do the searches, and then, I mean, there is no platform supporting all of them. Majority of them do support the protocol. I mean, there are a few of them from the large organizations such as JBI, Cochrane, and then they support. The next stage is screening. There are tools that do that, and then the screening of full text. And then some of them have meta-analysis and then final report, but none of them have this module to support the search section. So my other question actually is about if we want to build such ecosystem, would PICO Portal one day implement a module for the meta-analysis, for the assessment of certainty of the evidence using grade or network meta-analysis and cinema? Do you have any plan for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I talk to people all the time. What is the next chapter for us? What is the next chapter? Okay, we have the data extraction. We extracted all the data. So the next chapter will be clean up the data. So instead of doing it, if someone put USA and someone put United States, right? That is not something that it's easy to use for statistical analysis or any calculation. So how about we will create some sort of a module that will clean up the data for you, right? So that the date that you put together will be in a single format, so that you can do something with those dates and not have variation of the date, that the authors are being written in the same way, etc. Those are the simple type of data that I'm just suggesting here. But the whole idea is, let's clean up the data. Once we have a clean data, what is the next step after that? How do we can integrate? And the truth is, as you know, even large language model today has the ability on the fly to create programs for you. So you don't even have to be a developer. Like if we write like a module that it's tight enough and understand its purpose, you literally can say, I would like to have a scatter chart of those elements. On the y-axis, I would like to have this. On the x-axis, I would like to have that. Go ahead and take my data, which you're self-aware since it's in the database, and create a scatter chart for me. And you know what? I tried it 12 months ago. I didn't revisit it yet. And even 12 months ago, it was able to get 99%, maybe one or two mistakes in the code itself, but it was able to do it on the fly. So I'm just saying that's where we're going with this. I'll take it even a little bit further, Farhad, if it's okay with you.
Definitely.
The vision here, for someone that is really not so tied to this field and has a very different background than its colleagues, I really see that we will move away from a very transactional way of working with evidence into more of a conversational one. Like the technology that I'm developing right now is looking at your PDF files and have a conversation with the PDF file.
Yes.
Imagine that you have access to the PDF file and its authors, right? I mean, imagine that just from the PDF file, you can ask questions, and you can ask not in a very scientific way. You can ask in a very casual way. Tell me, did you use any randomization methods in your study, right? I mean, it's just a casual question. Or which population did you select for your study? What did you find out about your study? I mean, all of those things will get more common as we move forward. I mean, we were indoctrinated to use computers with very precise way of asking questions and answering them. And I think that over time, we will move into this more fluid question-like interaction, with the data that we have with us, right? And maybe it will lead us to better discoveries. I'm not so sure, but I am sure is that we're moving from this click on this, click on this, click on this to get that, is just to say what I'm looking for. That I know that happens because that's how PICO Portal, our users started to be trained to ask questions. They can ask today in PICO Portal. You talked about RAG, for example, the RAG technology. Because PICO Portal is self-aware of itself, you can ask, who is my most productive screener? And it will tell you. List how many articles were screened since yesterday. It will tell you. List for me all the articles from 2023 with the following topics, and it will tell you. Can you suggest to me 10 tags? If I want to tag my articles, what are the most common 10 tags that are comparable to my studies? It will tell you. So it's not like a matter of me sitting down and figuring out the tags. I can ask PICO Portal right now, at this point, based on the title, based on the description, based on the keywords that you enter, based on the inclusion-exclusion criteria. It takes all of that information and will compile it to a question that you never thought before. Why? Because it can. That's a direction.
Yes, that is a really important vision, and I think I read about it somewhere, and they call it conversational search. So rather than typing and clicking and everything, you are just going to conversate with the document or the system to get the answer or data that you want. Yeah, it's gonna take a very long time for people because evidence synthesis people are very traditional and very resistant to change. I mean, there are now a lot of tools that they don't use, or they use the tool that they have used like for 10, 15 years. It is very hard for them to switch to better tools. So that is a hopeful. We are going to have jobs still in the next 10, 20 years because automation is not gonna take our jobs. And the one thing that actually I wanted to share with you, again, coming from the users, is that the training that people, I mean, the new generation like to see is like 5 minutes. They are not into attending 1 hour. This is a TikTok generation. I mean, we are very lucky in the classroom to keep them focused for 5 minutes and then they are gone. So that is something that people requested, and it will be great if PICO Portal could create 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, just showing people that what they can do. Click here, click there, and that's done. I know that webinar is much deeper, so you actually explain what happens, why it is happening, how you are being responsible, and all the context. But I mean, this generation just wants click here, click there, and that's it. Like,
we'll be happy to provide you with the link.
thank you. Definitely. And the final question coming from the low and middle income countries and 350 million people under economic sanctions, and Gen Z actually, who are looking for the free stuff. They love to get everything for free, and I've seen them queuing like kilometers of queue to get a free sandwich. Even though they can afford to buy it, they just enjoy having free stuff. So PICO Portal, there is a free version that they could have one project with one reviewer. But what if they want to do serious project and they can't afford to pay, or even if they want, economically, the system blocks them from doing any sort of transfer. Can they use PICO Portal? Or you are thinking that opening PICO Portal up to a free version of PICO Portal is going to take a lot of system resources. So people are looking for using PICO Portal if they know that it's going to be free for low and middle income countries.
So that's a fair question. And as you know, PICO Portal is free, and it started as a free version. It was limited to one project, yes, because of the resources, and it's self-funded. So it's not a government project or anything like that. But we're fair to the market. We're committed to the young generation, and we say, each one of you, as long as you log in with an institutional email, not your Gmail or Yahoo, you can get a full version, unlimited version of PICO Portal. And if you're interested in the AI capabilities, which we are limited, that, as you know, AI is a whole new element of extra expense for us, then we provide them with the form that they can fill out to justify what they want to use it for, and then we would consider it. But since the inception of PICO Portal, there are thousands of users from over 70 countries that are using it. Unfortunately, we had to limit the number of countries. I think that we are right now supporting 35 countries, like those that are the most common being used. But again, we got a request from Indonesia, for example, that they say, oh, we wanted to use that, or for Singapore, and they from some of their leaders over there, and we said, okay, if you have enough students that are interested in something like that, we'll be happy to open it up to those countries as well. So there are some limitations really related to funding and our ability to support free technology. But definitely, all things being equal, I would have loved for everyone to be able to use it.
What would be the implications for the environment if they are going to use all these AI features? Is there any contribution to the global warming whenever we are using AI?
So PICO Portal doesn't work exactly like GPT when it comes to AI, right? So we use a mixture of technology. So it's not a single technology, a mixture of technologies that do not require that many resources. I'm not suggesting we're not relying on technologies such as large language model. Of course we do. I mean, they're very powerful in terms of understanding the meaning of the questions and providing directions. But in between, we can use other technologies as well to go ahead and to speed up the process. And whenever we can, and leverage already on an existing algorithm that already performed and responded, we are reusing it. So we're not wasting, asking the same question over and over again. We basically kind of trying to maintain, whatever it's being used already. So yes, it's unfortunately that it comes with the cost to the environment itself, right? We're all aware of it, but the most that we can do is be aware and not careless, right? And that's...
So from the technical questions, there's only one left, and that is, should we expect any surprises from PICO Portal in 2025?
Yes, I think I'll tell you, Farhad, I watch technology for a long time, and I've been in this business for quite some time. And there are years that nothing happened, that all the development in technology are incremental, like larger disk, faster CPU, a better user interface. I mean, since since the time of mobile phone that was like really a groundbreaking technology, I would say, and the internet itself, of course, we didn't see something like that. But now we live in a very different time. Now we live in a time where within weeks and months, you see years of development. It's a very unique experience to me, to see that, with large language models, like the capabilities and what it's capable of doing. So I would say, without any doubt, we will continue to listen very carefully to the users, and not necessarily just systematic review. There are other industries that are very interested in a PICO Portal, like competitive intel, or people that are doing things for marketing research related to the biomedical field, that do not necessarily need to follow a very systematic Cochrane approach to their literature. They go to Google Scholar, they identify 30, 40, 50 articles, and they would like to pull out information out of them, come up to some conclusion. So you can see that we can definitely address that type of a request and a need, which will be more appealing to a much wider user base. Systematic review, it's so-called like a handful of people that are doing it, compared to people that just would like to look at literature in general, right? I mean, just to...
I think that will be that's intriguing, because that is going to be important for some types of systematic reviews as well, like scoping reviews, evidence gap, and map. I think people would find that interesting.
Yeah, I actually was asked a question: can I take my eligible articles and start having conversation and use those kind of technology? And the answer is yes. Of course, we will implement that for sure. There should be a follow-up on this podcast with industry leaders.
Next.
Yeah.
5 years, 2 years, 3 years.
For what? To meet with PICO Portal?
Yes.
I would think that within 18 months, you already will see a major shift in the way that we are doing business. And I'll tell you what, it's not because of PICO Portal only. I think that I'm in touch with industry leaders, like Karen Robinson of Johns Hopkins, Mary Butler of Minnesota, Suzanne Hampel from South Carolina. They're all running very serious centers in evidence synthesis. And there is some element of frustration with Cochrane methodology. And I think that it needs to be looked at a little bit more carefully, given the fact that we have technology. So again, I'm not suggesting to break everything apart and rebuilding it, but I think that there is some shift that needs to take place as a result of what technology can help us. And PICO Portal will be just behind that to go ahead and to address those needs.
Yes, doing some automated stuff for Cochrane to reduce the unnecessary workload, is the music to many ears. So thank you very much. I think the technical part of the interview is done. So we are moving to the latest part, which is more general, and I think many people are going to find it helpful, regardless of if they have the technical information or not. And that is the first one, is the challenging one. What's going to happen to PICO Portal if you leave or retire? Do you have a board? Who's going to take care of the leadership?
Look, I think that if leadership depends on a single leader, if you consider me the leader of PICO Portal, it's not leadership, right? I mean, I don't think that, I wouldn't consider it as a leadership. My education and also belief is that the minute that you assume, even though it sounds very counterintuitive, but the minute that you assume a role, you have to think about a replacement. So, and if you don't, you just do a disservice to your organization and to your position. That's the nature of human being. Nobody lives forever. Nobody is doing things forever. There are life throw things at you and opportunities and challenges, and you have to think about who is the next one. So definitely we're working very hard, and I work very hard to make sure that there is a continuity to PICO Portal. Like, even though you create an entity, at one point it becomes really like you look at it as a third party, right? I mean, I look at PICO Portal not as part of me anymore, but I look at it as like from the outside, right? That what do I do? And my responsibility to that entity that has thousands of users and millions of abstracts and a complex workflow and recognition and literature that were written about it. What do I do to make sure that it will continue to survive? So that's definitely something that it's on my mind every day.
It's good to know, because one of the greatest crises that we've had in the field of evidence synthesis and automation is the leadership crisis, because people leave and then randomly there are people coming after the leaders, and it usually doesn't end well. And we've seen it multiple times. I'm not going to give examples. I don't want to put myself in trouble.
Leadership is very dear to me. I've been in leadership position for most of my adult life, I would say. And as I said, so just to be clear, right? Leadership that depends on the leader, it's not leadership. Okay? You cannot call yourself a leader if there is no replacement, or if there is no path for replacement for yourself. That's not leadership. Now, I've seen something that was very beautiful, and I think it's very applicable to the world of research, but something that is very beautiful in engineering. So as an engineer, there are two tracks of management. If you're the smartest guy in the group, which in any group, I'm sure there is one guy that it's like exceptionally smart, you don't become the leader necessarily. You become the chief engineer. You're the smartest guy. You don't manage anyone. Your job is basically to oversee everything, to make sure, to suggest people come, they consult with you. I mean, you're the Wikipedia of the organization. Then the second track is to identify an engineer that it's not necessarily the smartest, but has leadership capabilities, that it's charismatic, that can communicate things, that can encourage the team and motivate the team to do what they need to do. Those are two different tracks, and you have to choose which track you're good at and which track you would like to have. I think it's very applicable to research as well. I think that researchers will do themselves a favor if they would consider, do I want to stay more like on the technical side and be the chief engineer, so to speak? And if I do, who will run my lab? Who will run my research center? Who is that person that has those skills to do those kinds of things, to interview people, to understand the people, to develop the vision, to get the funding, to do all the things that I rather not do, but really figure out, just I want to solve the problems. I want to deal with those challenges. I love that in engineering. And I think that engineering, as you know, it's a profession since the pharaohs. This is not something that it's new. And it took an IT is what is the last 50, 70, 80 years. So there's a lot from IT to learn from that particular field. And I totally encourage that.
That's very encouraging and very inspiring. Actually, it was going to be my next question. You already mentioned two very important leadership lessons. One of them was that a college degree gives you flexibility. The second one was about the categories of leadership that there are. Are there any leadership lessons that you want to share with the young generation, the fast generation who want to? I mean, when they are in primary school, they are thinking about getting a degree from Harvard and then becoming the CEO of I don't know what company. So they want to achieve everything within a year. 2 years is too long, and they put a lot of stress and pressure on themselves. What are the lessons that you've learned from your career and you want to share it with this generation, that how they could become a leader in their field?
Let me point it out this way. Because we're dealing with scientists, and I will just focus on that particular field. This is not, leadership in general, but just scientists, mathematicians. There is an aspect when you work on things like developing a formula, right? Like E equal MC square or any one of those formulas, that those formulas do not create motivation, okay? If you want to be a leader, you have to take a very technical element and start to build a story about it. I'll give you an example with PICO Portal, and maybe that will clarify it. I can come and say, let's build a GPT-like user interface when the user asks questions, right? Or I can come to my team and I said, imagine that you are looking at these PDF files and you want to interact with it, okay? You want to ask questions that otherwise you don't know how to formulate, right? You want to have a conversation with the author of that particular study. What should we do in order for us to create that sort of feeling for the user that they literally can have an interaction with a piece of paper, that they literally can ask questions and get answers? Now you let the people start to think about, they start to envision in their own, he's not just asking me to do this, right? Just to have a space bar or to have a question that need to be answered. He's asking me to create a user experience, something that will, from my own experience, from my own culture, I can contribute to this conversation. And then they start to come up with an idea. That's what I'm talking about. Leadership is not just like telling people that there's a difference between management, right? Which management is budget, is timeline, and so forth. But leadership is creating a vision, is basically showing people the art of the possible and leading them to kind of continue and develop it with you, so that you will get the best out of them. They're part of that vision. They're part of being the artist of creating that vision with you. That's what leadership is. So while you can be the smartest and you can work very hard at Harvard to get A, and I'm sure you will yield a very good job, it's not necessarily that you will run the company. To run the company, you need different type of skill sets that unfortunately nobody is teaching you. Unfortunately, nobody is even pointing out to you what you need. And what you need is the ability to tell a reliable story that will inspire people with your story. Everything around us is a story. Everything is around us is a story. And if you minimize that, if you think that it's just about fact, we're absolutely wrong, in my opinion. So I would say you incorporate facts into the story, but you create a vision that enables people and motivate them to wake up in the morning with a smile on their face and they say, yeah, I want to do that.
That's a very good point. I don't think many people wake up in the morning and they smile, especially if it is Monday morning. But yeah, if they are enjoying what they are doing and if they know that there is a vision and they want to sacrifice their time, not just the salary at the end of the month, I would say, because that is it's like you're exchanging your life with money. And I tell people that it is the most worthless thing you could do. But I see what you are saying about this storytelling, and it is important. And the people that I've had this interview with them, all of them have a fascinating story behind how they have become who they are, how they have created this beautiful, what I call the beautiful baby that they have created. And yeah, I think there are a lot of lessons in this for the new generation, because I consider myself the third generation of evidence synthesis people. The fourth generation worries me. That's why I started saying that let's document the history, because if they see the past, maybe they learn something from it for the present and the future. And there is one thing that I ask from all of my guests, and that is, who should be my next guest? And there is no limit to the numbers. Who should I interview next, do you think?
I think I touched on that, and I'll repeat that. I definitely feel that in the area of evidence synthesis, that it's up for a challenge right now. That people in the know need to look at it very carefully and decide what is Cochrane 2.0, in my opinion. So when you think about Cochrane 2.0, you want to invite the leaders that I know, right? I mean, which is, as I mentioned, Karen Robinson of Johns Hopkins, Mary Butler of Minnesota, Suzanne Hampel of South Carolina. We can invite younger people such as Riaz Qureshi from the University of Colorado, which is working with me and knows technology and Cochrane very well. So I think that to have a panel like this and to ask some real questions, do we really need to screen 5,000 or 10,000 title abstracts, or is it okay to start relying on priority screening? Is there a better way to avoid abstract screening altogether and to jump into full text, right? And skip a whole step over here? What are the ways that we can do to, while we're doing the full text screening, to already start with the data extraction and the risk of bias so that we can shorten the timeline and not work sequentially, right? So those are some questions that come to mind, but I'm sure that there are many more.
Thank you very much, Eitan. You've been very generous with your time and knowledge, and on behalf of evidence synthesis community, we would like to thank you sincerely and wish you and the PICO Portal all the great things, and we hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you, Eitan.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.